You guys are small but mighty. Thanks, Hannah. All right. So today, guys, feel free to jump in since it's just a handful of you at any time. Jump in with questions or comments, and we'll plug along. So thanks for joining us. Today we're talking about building block 2, which is supportive relationships and environments. Kind of the second cornerstone to the building blocks. Last month was program design, and that's kind of like your foundation. And then relationships is really where you kind of build on top of that and continue your quality journey. So just a few housekeeping notes for anyone who's watching this recording in the future. It is recorded. We will put this online and it will be on our website. So if anyone missed it today or you want to go back and watch it again, you can. I'll make the slide deck available as well. If you're having trouble with your audio, please feel free to call in with your phone. You don't have to use your computer. You are welcome to ask questions at any time. This open forum, go ahead and talk out loud, but if you would rather use the chat box, you are welcome to. We will use polls. There's only a couple. If you can join them on your computer, great. You just click the box. If you can't, you're welcome to also put that in chat. Sorry, I have a little frog in my throat this morning. So we're just going to talk about the quality standards. Again, this is recorded, so we try to go through what the quality standards mean and what they are, just in case anyone's watching this for the first time. We'll go over the building block and the standards. We'll look at the book, go through the indicators, because that's what you're really here for. And we'll do a resource reminder at the end. And so this is our first poll. I'm just kind of curious, if you can hopefully see it, whether you're here gathering information for colleagues or your employees, or if you're gathering information for yourself this morning. I'll just leave the poll open for like a minute and then I will know. Oh, good morning, James. I'm glad you were able to jump on. Jody, good morning. A couple people jumped to see. I knew as soon as I started, people would jump in. I'll give you about 30 more seconds for those who just joined us. All right, let me stop that and we'll share so you guys can see. So most of you are here for your own professional use, and I do appreciate that. That's great. And for those of you who are sharing information with colleagues and employees, also fantastic use of time and resources, so I appreciate you as well. Thank you so much. So quickly, the goals for quality standards are, mute you, James. Define what quality out of school time programming looks like. That's our main goal and mission with the quality standards, and serve as a foundation for decisions and practices. We wanted to professionalize the youth development field so that you guys are seeing more than just babysitters or teens watching kids. We want to advance your field, right? And so the building blocks work, in case you haven't looked at them or you can't remember from the last couple of months, right? The building block is your guiding principle. That's the big definition standard. Then under the quality principle, then there's the standard, which defines the intent of the block. And then we have the indicators, the individual actions that programs take to meet the standard, right? So today our building block is supportive relationships and environments. We'll read the standard and then we'll go over the indicators. If you're following along with your book, if you got a book or you've downloaded the book, we are on pages 8 and 9. So on the left is your indicators, right? And on the right is your self-assessment that you can take or give to your employees to take. It's just your quick way of looking at the indicators and kind of gauging whether you're doing something, whether you're kind of starting and trying something, or whether you've not yet met that indicator. And then you write in your own evidence and how you know that that's where you're at. It's kind of a fun practice to give to your employees to see if everyone agrees, or if someone says we're not doing it and you think you are doing it, then you can have that conversation. It's a good conversation starter. If you don't have the book and you would like the book, you can go to our website, idahooutoFschool.org. Under the quality heading at the top, you can click building blocks and you can download the book for free as often as you want. If you would like a hard copy, you're welcome to let us know and we will get you one. Okay. Another quick poll, and then you've seen this poll probably before, but it's a nice one for me. Just as because you guys change every month, what your role is in your organization. Do you design youth programs, deliver youth programs? You're both a deliverer and a designer, or neither. You're kind of here listening, or maybe you work with programs, but you don't design their programs, and you're more of a support person. Give you, waiting someone. Give you like 10 more seconds because most of you have answered this one. All right. So most of you are in the category of both deliver and design. You're probably, and I know most of you, but not everyone, you're probably directors and you're doing everything, you're doing all the work. And then I do have a couple of you guys who are just listening in, or maybe you support programming, but you are not in charge of delivering and designing programming. So the supportive relationship and environment standard is defined as, and I'm going to read it, I'm sorry. Quality programs purposefully create a welcoming environment. Programs develop, nurture, and maintain positive relationships and interactions among participants and staff while creating a sense of security, belonging, and ownership. Right? You guys, most of the out of school time programming is kind of lives and dies on relationships, right? You guys see these kids almost every day or every day, and you hopefully are trusted adults in kids' lives. But this standard also is relationships between staff, and sometimes staff relationships can also be a little tricky, right? So why are relationships so important? Why do we focus on relationship building in out of school time? Right, so the Department of Education's Office of Safe and Drug-Free Schools and the American Institute for Research did a study, and I'm sure these are things that you guys already know, but right, we know that positive relationships increase academic achievement, right? If kids are connected to school and we can extrapolate out of school time activities into these statistics, the research is there, they're more likely to attend, they stay in school longer, they get higher grades, right? If they feel closeness with teachers, and I would say with trusted adults, they work harder, they get better grades, they have more confidence. And the high risk behaviors, right? So we go up in academic achievement, we go down in high risk behaviors, right? They're less likely to do risky behaviors like drink and smoke and have less emotional needs, not needs, that's a bad way to say that. And experience suicidal thoughts or attempts. And right, they are less likely to carry weapons or be involved in violence. And they're less likely to be involved in dangerous activities. So when they have a community support, when they have trusted adults in their lives, right, risky behavior goes down, academic behaviors go up, and good behaviors go up, right? This is kind of our last poll of the day, but I want to know how you guys feel you're doing currently in relationships. Do you feel your program is struggling with relationships? Yes, between staff and youth. Yes, between the staff themselves. Nope, we're doing okay, but we can always use support. Or nope, relationships, they're our gold ticket. We are super strong in that.
And I'm going to give you a few more seconds to think that through. It's your gut reaction. Just throw it out there. Actually, I think all of you have responded, so we'll just share that so you guys can see it. So yeah, a couple of you are still struggling between staff and youth, and maybe the staff themselves. Emily, middle school students are hard in particular, for sure. Their brain growth and development, right, makes relationships hard between themselves and between them and adults. And Emily, do you have teen staff that are working with lower teen, like teen or young college? You don't have to answer if you don't want, but sometimes that struggle when you have like an 18-year-old in charge of a 13-year-old can become, oh, good. Well, so I like that. And then if a bunch of you fell into the no, we're doing okay, but we always use support. Great. That's always good to hear. And hopefully this talk will just give you some ideas as you move forward. I'm sorry about the frog in my throat, guys. It's not the, all right. So I kind of paired two indicators together, A and E, if you're following along in your book. So program structure provides opportunities for staff and youth to build trusting relationships. And we're pairing that today with staff and youth engage each other in positive, respectful ways through listening, acceptance, and appreciation, right? So building trust is often about having information and listening to others, right? We want to make sure that we have both. And the easiest way to build trust and have information is to know your students. And it sounds really simple, and it really is simple, but you have to know them, right? You know them by name, you know what they like, you know who their parent or their guardian is, you know their situation, right? As much as possible. And then really be aware of students who may have significant need. And I'm talking about neurodiversity. I'm talking about people in your program who may be food insecure. Parents are going through a divorce and who may have higher needs than maybe some of your typical students, right? These are all really basic things, but make a huge, huge impact. Calling someone by name immediately makes them feel like they belong. And it also can help with behavior, right? If they don't think you know who they are, they're going to be in the corner, doing whatever, right? And then I like to say, build goodwill on good days. Sometimes it's really easy. Hi, Kim. It's really easy to make negative interactions become the norm. If you're correcting behavior a lot and that becomes the standard, then that's the thing that you end up doing all the time. So on good days, when kids are having great days, build goodwill then, right? Then when you have bad days, you have that built up and then it's not as bad, right? Don't let those bad times be the only time that you're interacting with kids. So simple ideas, right? We're just kind of create an intake form for your parents and guardians as well as your students, right? Take that first 5 minutes of getting to know you time and have them write some stuff down for you, even if it's things like favorite movie, favorite snack, music I like to listen to, bands I'm into right now, games I'm into right now. Obviously parents and guardians, who's picking up who, is there legal guardianship issues that we need to address? Get all that information up front, even if you're a drop-in program, right? Try, even if you're a drop-in program. I know there's programming that still allows kids to drop in, but they can't participate or stay the entire time until they have forms on file. And I would highly recommend that you guys do that if you don't already. I know most of you are probably 21st and you already have a registration process, but if you don't have a registration or get to know you form for students, keep that in the back of your mind. Make sure there's time in your schedule for relationships. If you go into programming like the second they get in there, you may be missing an opportunity to have time to talk, check in with kids. Maybe that's during your snack time, if you have one. Maybe there's a get to know you time. But make sure you're building in time to sit down and listen to kids. So if you don't build in the time, you'll often forget, right? We treat relationship building a lot like a luxury, and it's really a necessity. You have to have relationships built into your programming, or the behaviors go, remember, bad behaviors will go up, right? And we want good behaviors to go up. I like this idea. I know it may not be practical for everyone, but if you have a photo board with names of all the teachers that are working during the day, that's a really helpful tool, especially if you have a drop-in program or if you have kids that maybe rotate or different programming on different days. It saves a lot of embarrassment for new kids, and it's a really great tool, certainly at the beginning of the year, or if you have change in staff throughout the year. But this works with students and kids too, so that they learn to know each other. And one of the ideas I saw was if you have a board, maybe you have a big whiteboard or a bulletin board where you can have these kids are outside, these kids are here, right? It's helpful for staff. You can see by face and name where kids are. They can see where kids are if they're looking for a friend and who's checked in today, especially if you have a large program. This is a good way for kids to see who's around and start putting names and faces together. Especially, again, beginning of this new year or a new program, great way to start. Student-led interview sessions, I think this is such a great idea, and it's also fun if you want to do staff and families or staff interview other staff, right? If you don't have you can create a newspaper. There's a program activity, right? Builds programming activities in for you if you build relationship time, right? It could be a newspaper or a newsletter, or you can bring back that student of the week, or, there's many ways to do that, or sharing family recipes, or anything that focuses on your students or your staff. And as long as you're throwing out appreciation and you're building goodwill on good days with staff as well, right? A couple of you are saying staff and staff, and that might be the relationship problem. Remember to compliment staff, model that, have fun, model that, right? It goes a long, long way. Even if it's just cards or candy, or doesn't have to be complicated. So indicator B, program fosters a sense of community. Staff are welcoming and encourage youth to connect with one another and build community, right? Community building is important. I'm sure all of you are not surprised by that, right? You share goals and experiences. People feel more empowered to contribute when they feel a part of a community. You build trust. You feel understood. You feel capable, which is really, really important. Emily, like you're saying, in that middle school years, capability, because they're in that weird transition time where they're not treated as, an older teen like in high school, but they're no longer as, as dependent as elementary school. So they need support, but they want some independence, right? That's where community building will become really important, right? Because we want them to know how to do teamwork and cooperate, negotiate, right? We kind of forget that as a skill that they learn. And I say draw on one another's skills, but that also means ask for help. Learn what they're good at, learn what others are good at, and then build that teamwork and cooperation, right? Those are skills we learn through community.
So how do you do that? Work together on a project. We talked about project-based learning a little bit in last month's episode of program building, and working towards a shared reward. And what I mean is by shared reward is, maybe this is marbles in a jar, but obviously you guys probably have a million ways to do this. But every time kids in class are doing something great, marbles go in the jar. When the jar is full, they get a reward. Or it could be as complex as you have a team building exercise once a day, once a week. And if everyone in the group completes that exercise, you know, for over a period of time, then they get a reward, right? Have regular program meetings. And by program meetings, not just staff meetings, although super important to have staff meetings, I mean build time into your programming, whether it's once a week, whether it's once a day during snack, whatever fits for your program, but have time to listen to students, solve problems, learn more about each other. And that's just a, hey, everyone, grab a chair, grab the floor, let's talk for a minute, get it all out. Who's having an issue with school or with work or whatever, and then keep going. Shared set of rules and behavior expectations. This is really important. This is actually an indicator we'll talk about in a second. They're just going to have to practice them. We talked about that in brain science if you've joined me for that training. If not, it'll be on the web soon and you can watch it. But we talk about how you practice, or that's actually my behavior training, but how you practice and you practice and you practice, because kids forget and their brains are not done building themselves, and we just have to keep reminding them. Right, we discuss how these rules keep students safe and how they learn respect and how they care about each other. It's really important to have those shared expectations. Right, the stronger your community, the fewer the conflicts, and then when problems arise, right, the community can carry them through and find solutions. And that's kind of the theme of this entire building block, right? Strong relationships, build strong communities, less behavior problems. So here's that indicator I was just talking about, right? Staff and youth have shared high expectations and consistency of appropriate norms and behaviors. Sounds so easy, right? So easy. But allowing students to have ownership over their environment, right, shows that you value what they're saying to you, right? Their thoughts and their feelings are validated, which goes a long, long way with them feeling confident in building those communities and relationships. Right, so the practical way is they participate in developing program rules and behavior guidelines. And this is something that happens, you need to do, whether that's every session, every, you know, beginning of school year, whatever it is, allow them to participate. Students feel valued, they understand, they learn collaboration, right? They're more likely to follow your rules and expectations if they helped build them, because you can remind them, remember guys, we talked about this, you guys agreed, this is a rule, right? So how do we do that? You have to establish the need, right? Clarify the importance of taking time to create the understanding and the shared rules. And kind of like program building, you have to envision your outcome, right? What is healthy, productive, respectful? What does the safe program look like? And if they can start there, then they can build rules. And this is something that probably will take more than a 10-minute meeting, right? This might be something you work on with them for the first week of programming, or you'll revisit and you'll do it again. Right, you can promote full participation, you want everyone there, but of course you can't expect everyone to do it. As much as possible you can, and hopefully if you can get buy-in from some key people, more people will follow, but everyone's invited to work on it, and you know, you press forward. Then you're going to create those explanations or expectations. You're going to brainstorm, you'll plan, you'll make sure everyone understands them.
You'll practice them, right? You'll go over them again and again and again until they get it, and then you'll do it again because then they'll forget. Right? And then evaluate and revise. Check back in with them. That's one of the things that you can do in those check-in meetings is, hey, how are the rules going? I noticed some of you are having a hard time with, quiet time expectations or, areas of the room that we've set up. What's going on? Can we clarify that rule for you, or can we maybe change it for you? What's happening? So make sure you build in that time to go back and talk them through again. Don't forget rules on how kids can have a disagreement, right? Because they will. So this is the time to say, you guys will not always agree. You're allowed to disagree. You're allowed to be mad. You're allowed to be frustrated. You cannot be mean. We don't say swear words or hurl insults, right? And you have to write these down explicitly. What you can do is have a civil argument, or you can come to a teacher to negotiate terms, whatever it is that your group will work on. But build in a way in your rules and expectations for kids to not agree on something, right? A lot of times we want to say, oh, everyone will agree all the time because kumbaya, we're all a big community, but that's not reality. We know that. So indicators D and F, these are, well, F is the last one. Staff uses positive guidance to direct youth behavior and model positive behaviors to youth and each other, right? And staff model professional and safe, healthy boundaries. So for those of you who are struggling with staff and each other, remind them that they have to be positive role models for the kids they're working with. If they're arguing or they're disagreeing or they're having a problem, that'll reflect right back into the kids you're working with, right? They learn how to have a disagreement. They learn how to interact with each other from the staff that they work with, right? If you have staff that are not respecting boundaries with each other, right? They might be dating, or they might dislike each other on the opposite end. They're modeling for the kids that they work for. So we can work on appreciation between each other, however that looks, where you have staff superstars, you have staff, fun times out, whatever it is to make your staff feel better and more connected together, as long as it's within healthy boundaries. Well, we're going to talk about positive guidance for kids, because that comes up probably more often, is how to direct youth behavior positively. So positive guidance is based on the belief that we have to have kids learn how to be controlled, how self-control, and not just on the behavior outcome of like they all sat at their desks quietly, right? Because that's not really, we can get kids to do that on a fairly regular basis, but maybe they're still not learning self-control. And we just taught, we cannot, there is no way to eliminate conflict or disappointment or frustration, right? So we have to teach kids, and it's a teachable moment on how to deal with situations and emotions, right? And that's why I said build in disagreement, build in what to do if a kid is overwhelmed. There's a safe space, there's a quiet space that kids can go to, right? If they're feeling overwhelmed or they're having a conflict, what do they do? It's a skill we have to learn, especially by middle school, right? It gets tricky around there. But positive guidance is not the typical sticker, chart, or reward system. So remember I was talking about earlier building to a group reward? I'm talking about that kind of consistent with a big reward at the end, not necessarily like, hey guys, you one single person did a great thing, so I'm putting a sticker on your chart. I can pay you $10 to do 50 push-ups, but that didn't make you healthier, right? Because I'd have to keep paying you $10, and then eventually all you're really doing is wanting the money and not actually wanting to get healthier. So that's why we're not talking about reward systems for good behavior like that. right? So we're talking about long-term positive guidance. This is a consistent reminder of the rules. We've built community, right? So you're positively guiding kids. Also, and this is important, we talked about building goodwill on good days. Good behavior doesn't come from fear and threats, right? That'll, again, short term, that'll work in a minute, but over time, you're eroding your good relationship and whatever goodwill you've built, right? That's not an intrinsic way to make someone want to be good. And if that's where your staff is at, if they're at the point where all they're doing is threatening to take away something or not do something, then somewhere down the line, the positive behavior and all of the good things has gone away, and we need to flip mindset, right? Is that making sense? I hope so. I know it's easier said than done, but I hope so. So, right, so how do we do this? We set clear and consistent rules. We talked about that, right? And make sure, I'm gonna go back, make sure that your entire staff is on board with the rules. Because if one staff member is letting something slide and another one is not, that builds resentment between staff, but it's also really confusing for kids, right? Make sure your environment is safe as you can make it, right? We heard a lot when we went around the state last year, we heard a lot from kids that out of school time programming in particular is their safe space. They don't always feel that way at school, but they feel that in your spaces, that they feel that they can talk to trusted adults. They feel like kids, you know, are more or less respectful to them, and they may not be getting that in their full school day environment or at home, that their home is not their safe space and that your space is. And so try to maintain that as much as possible. Encourage self-control and independence by providing meaningful choices. And by that, I mean, don't give choices you don't intend to maintain. But really allow children as much as possible to make their own choices, right? You can go play soccer or you can play video games. I don't care which one. You choose, and then you allow them to choose. You can't then say, oh, whoops, there's too many people in games, you have to go play soccer, because now the choice didn't mean anything and you kind of took a step back. You have to help, especially in the middle years where their brain development is still happening, help build their self-image. They see themselves often a certain way in certain places, and currently we're running a pilot. We talked about self-image with some middle school students, and they really saw themselves, a lot of them, as not smart, not outgoing, and it's heartbreaking. And you know, as often as you can, build that goodwill, remind them that you trust them, remind them that they can be responsible. Hey guys, you're doing a really great job talking to each other, I really appreciate it. Build the goodwill at good times and good days, so that when you have to take a second and say, hey, I didn't love the decision you just made, you're still a great person, I totally believe you can make these decisions. Let's talk through how you got to where you were thinking that that would be great and it wasn't. But keep their self-image in mind. If you're calling them dumb, if you have staff member who are like, hey, stupid, even if it's sarcastic or they think it's a joke, it's not. They internalize it, right? Expect the best. Don't expect the worst. If you go in every day into your program going, ugh, this is going to be the worst day, it's going to be the worst day, right? Expect the best, tell them they're the best, work towards the best. There's no reason not to. Give clear directions, one at a time. We go over this in my behavior training. If you're coming to Behavior Management Institute, I'm sure we'll cover it again. right? They're not going to remember. Let's do it over and over and over and over again. Slow down, think it through, what you want them to do, then go over it again, repeat it, right? I love this one. Best way, one of the best ways to kind of mitigate bad behavior and do positive guidance is say yes whenever you can and whenever possible. And think about why you're saying no if you need to say no, right? Emily, if you know Emily, my coworker Emily, this is a big thing that she does too. Say yes and think about it, whether it's a teacher control issue or whether it's a class control issue or whether it's a safety issue. Because if it's just about you and you don't want them to do it, rethink it. And if you have to say no, can you say no, but? No, I'm sorry, you can't build a pyramid out of chairs, but if your goal is really more an action thing, you can do this. Or if you really want to build a fort, you can't stack the chairs up, but maybe we can find a blanket to throw over, you know, a table and you can build a fort that way, right? Obviously, if it's a safety issue, you have to say no. But if it's like, oh, I just don't like the noise because it's a me issue, you might want to change to yes. Just consider that. Talked about this earlier. Notice and pay attention when kids do things right every time, as much as possible. Build goodwill. Take action before the situation gets out of control, right? You see it heading that way. Most of you are really good at seeing things as they're unfolding in front of you. Kids are not good at predicting long-term consequences. So it might seem like a really great idea to them, and you're like, that's heading towards disaster. Take action early. Like, hey guys, I see that you're going to build these chairs into a pyramid. Don't think that's the safest way. What else can we do? Right? Oh, Emily, that's a great idea. In case you're not reading the chat, Emily says she always tells her kids how excited that she is they came to program that day, or if they've missed a day, what was happening. Absolutely. They feel more important. They feel more noticed. That's a great way. Just noticing that they weren't there and checking to make sure they're okay goes a long way. We love it when our own, you know, friends and family and coworkers do that for us. And it's the same for kids. I mean, I think everyone loves when someone important in their life, whether it's their boss or their supervisor or their significant other, says, you know what, you are doing a really great job today. You're amazing. I love you. Right? We all feel good about that. Kids are no different. In fact, I'd probably say it's more important for them to hear it. Be encouraging. Oh, good segue, Emily. You have to be their example as much as possible. Use all the humor. Remind yourself that tomorrow's another day. There's going to be a time where you messed it up. You yelled, something got out of control. You were having a bad day. Regroup, new day, next day. Apologizing goes a long way, right? You're setting that example of like, hey, I did not handle that the way I wanted to. I apologize. Let's work on it. We'll try again, right? Set that example so they hear how that works in an adult, so that when they become adults or as they are getting older, they know that they can apologize and they can try again. How their actions affect others is another important, right? That consequence issue that kids skip a lot. Hey, you made her cry. Did you notice that? Because they may not read that situation at all the way you thought they were. We talked in brain training how kids misread facial emotions upwards of 40% or more of the time. Literal guess 50-50 whether they will understand someone else's emotion. So you kind of have to be that middleman who says, she didn't feel good about that. He didn't feel good about that. Let's talk about it. How can we fix this? What can we do moving forward? And I'm going to quickly go over kind of the other end of that about misbehavior, because we're talking about positive guidance. If there's something that you perceived as misbehavior, first, this is a hard one. It's probably the hardest part. Is the student really doing something wrong? or is it you? And that's self-reflective, and it's very easy to be like, well, of course it's them. But there are definitely a handful of times where it's me or it's the teacher, and it's something you don't like, right? I hate the sound of like chewing, like ASMR, not my thing. I'm the stabby person, don't like it. But I can't inflict that on someone else just because they're watching YouTube videos of ASMR, right? And I'm like, ah! Oh well, that's a me issue, right? Programs get loud. Okay, right? So reflect first. Are they actually doing something wrong? If it's not really a problem, walk away, let them do it. It's a you thing, right? If it is an actual problem, is the student actually capable of doing what you expected? And that's where knowing your kids really well comes into play, right? My son is autistic, and there are times where I just want to be like, why can't you do this? And he can't do it. He can't. He was playing basketball. PE teacher asked him to look someone in the eyes and dribble. It's a fit, and he can't. And he walked away, and it's very easy to look at that and go, he just doesn't want to do it. He's misbehaving. He physically can't do it. He cannot stare someone in the eyes. That's not a trait he has. He cannot do it. Is a student, do you know that maybe they're hungry? Are they tired? They had a fire drill or a lockdown drill that day, active shooter training that day, and they cannot possibly do it. Sorry, my phone's ringing. And so maybe that's not the day to expect fantastic behavior out of them, right? If you're not being realistic and this is not something that they can do, reevaluate your expectations, right? Reevaluate that rule. That's why we go back to those behavior expectations and we say build in time to reevaluate whether that rule is working. If your expectations are fair and it has become a problem, right? Did the student know what they were doing was wrong? Maybe they're new, they didn't know the rules. If not, we go over them again. We offer help. Hey, we don't do that here. This is why we made this rule. Remember why we made the rule, right? And only after all of that, if you get to like, nope, they knew the rules, it's a fair expectation, they helped build it, whatever, it's not just me, then we can go, okay, this is a misbehavior we have to address. And I would say make sure that your staff know what are those things that is a junk behavior, like I can throw it out, I can ignore that, they're trying to be silly or whatever. What's kind of a minor problem that can be fixed internally, and what are those things that are major problems that need to go to you as a director or above you as a director, the principal, whatever, those things that are non-negotiable items. Make sure your staff agree on those things, right? Otherwise someone's going to treat something as junk behavior that you're like, no, that's pretty major. Nope, can't get caught smoking in program. We have to go somewhere with that, right? So real quick, if you have never seen our resource guide, I can't imagine at this point that many of you have never seen it. Well, let's quickly look at it. Just maybe any minute now. It always takes a really long time right when we're doing this. I'm gonna drag it over. Hopefully you guys can see it. So we're at, so first, here at the top, if you go to our website, idahowtoschool.org, that building block, if you're looking for it, the reminder is that it's right here. Here's See the Guide, and you can print it out. You can watch the Introduction to Building Blocks training if you'd like. And then under that same place is Resources. I'm going to remind you every time, so hopefully you're using it. And you can click through the different building blocks to find the resources you need. Today we're on supportive relationships and environments. You can also print the guide from here. But there are some improvement templates. If this is the area that you think you want to work on, you can pull these up, make a plan. There are some resource guides that are really great. How to build relationships and experience, preparing youth to thrive. If you want to take further training and really kind of dive deep into some of these relationship building areas, these are all really great. Children Who Challenge Us. I believe all of these are, yes. So all of these current trainings are through the Penn State Extension, which means you can take the trainings for free. And then if you need a training certificate, training hours for them, you can pay, I think it's $15 and get a certificate, take their test, get the certificate. And I know all of these are approved for Idaho Stars hours. And then some of them, I believe, have continuing education units if you need those, which I want to say is a little more expensive, but I don't remember exactly. There's even an LGBTQ youth guide in here. And then there are a couple of activities that you can work on in making connections and learning practices. So check out the resources if this is an area that you're like, yes, I need help and I would like to go further here. Please use the resource guide to help you. I am adding some Y4Y resources. Those didn't get into there yet, but we will continue to add Y4Y resources if that's something that you need. We're breaking those down into the building blocks so you guys don't have to search for them yourselves. We would love and are willing to create shared resources. So if your program is doing something really great, like if you have a really awesome intake form for kids or for parents and you want to share it with us, please email them to me. I will put them on the website and share them out. Happy to do that for you guys. Our next webinar will be Building Block 3, which is Youth Voice, Leadership, and Engagement. So this is, again, kind of the companion piece to today's relationship building, is how to get youth engaged and hear them. That will be March 26th. The registration is open currently on our website, but we will also send it in our newsletters. If you haven't signed up for that, please do so. It's 10 a.m. Same bat channel, same bat time, right here with me. I know you guys love hearing my voice for like an hour every month. I'm open to questions if anyone has any more. We have about 10 minutes, but otherwise this presentation part is done. And I loved having you guys on. Thank you so much for participating. Does anyone have questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thanks, James. I muted everyone, so you can always unmute yourself if you'd rather just talk. Thanks, Kim.